What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? For decades, Russia boasted that their S-400 air defense system was exactly that immovable object, a technological fortress that could swat missiles from the sky like flies. They sold this dream to the world, convincing countries from China to Turkey to spend billions on these impenetrable shields. But on a fateful day in August 2023, at a windswept Cape in occupied Crimea, Ukraine was about to prove that Russia's prize weapon had a fatal weakness. The question wasn't if the S-400 could be destroyed. The question was how spectacularly it would fall. The billion-dollar shield that was supposed to change everything. Imagine spending over $500 million on a single air defense battery. That's the price tag Russia attached to its S-400 Triumph system, and the Kremlin wanted everyone to know it was worth every ruble. Introduced in 2007 after years of development by the prestigious Almaz Ante Design Bureau, the S-400 wasn't just an upgrade, it was supposed to be a revolution. But what made the S-400 so special? Picture a system that could track hundreds of targets simultaneously, engage aircraft flying 30 kilometers high, and shoot down missiles traveling at hypersonic speeds, all while coordinating with other defense systems across hundreds of kilometers. Each battery bristled with massive radar arrays that could detect a stealth fighter from 600 kilometers away. Its missiles could reach out 400 kilometers to slap incoming threats from the sky. On paper, it was the ultimate guardian angel for Russian forces. Russia didn't just build these systems for themselves. They turned the S-400 into a geopolitical chess piece. Turkey's purchase created a NATO crisis. China bought it to study and reverse engineer. India lined up billions to secure their own batteries. Russia whispered to the world, "Buy our S-400 and you'll be untouchable." So what could possibly go wrong? The Cape, where Russia made its fatal mistake. Have you ever made a decision that seemed brilliant at the time but turned into your worst nightmare? That's exactly what happened when Russian commanders chose Cape Tarkhankut as the perfect spot for their S-400 batteries. Look at a map of Crimea, and you'll see this rocky finger of land jutting into the Black Sea's western edge. It looks perfect, doesn't it? The Cape offered commanding views across the water. Radar installations could sweep the horizon, detecting Ukrainian aircraft the moment they took off from bases hundreds of kilometers away. Ships trying to approach Crimea would be spotted instantly. It was, in military parlance, key terrain. But here's the thing about perfect positions. They're perfect for both sides. Russian generals saw opportunity. They deployed their precious S-400 batteries, confident that these systems would create an impenetrable bubble over western Crimea. They imagined Ukrainian pilots seeing those radar emissions and turning back in fear. They pictured their missiles streaking skyward to destroy any threat foolish enough to approach. What they didn't picture was their own batteries exploding in balls of fire. The truth about Cape Tarkhankut was darker than Russia wanted to admit. Yes, it provided excellent sightlines, but it was also exposed, isolated, and sitting on a peninsula that Ukraine considered stolen territory. Every Russian soldier stationed there knew they were squatting on occupied land, surrounded by an increasingly hostile sea, beneath a sky where Ukrainian drones might appear at any moment. Would you want to be manning an air defense battery knowing the enemy had marked you for death? August 23, 2023, the day Ukraine said, "Watch this." What goes through your mind in the seconds before a missile strike? Do you hear it coming? Do the radar screens light up with warnings? Or does death arrive faster than thought itself? On August 23, 2023, Ukrainian forces decided it was time to answer a question that had haunted military analysts since the war began. Could Ukraine actually destroy Russia's most advanced air defense systems deep inside occupied territory? The weapon they chose was poetic. Remember the Neptune missile? This Ukrainian-designed anti-ship cruise missile had already earned legendary status by sending the Russian cruiser Moskva to the bottom of the Black Sea in April 2022. But that was a ship killer attacking a ship, exactly what it was designed to do. Now Ukraine was about to get creative. Ukrainian engineers at the Lush Design Bureau had been busy. They took their Neptune missiles, designed to skim just meters above the waves to strike warships, and asked an audacious question. What if we could make these hunt-land targets instead? It required completely reprogramming the guidance systems, modifying the flight profiles, and developing new targeting protocols. Essentially, they were teaching an old dog entirely new tricks. And on August 23rd, those tricks paid off spectacularly. The modified Neptune missiles screamed across the Black Sea toward Cape Tarkhankut. Imagine the irony, a Ukrainian coastal defense missile born from Soviet-era designs that Russia once created, now turned against Russia's own military. The missile flew low, using terrain masking and the curvature of the Earth to avoid detection until the last possible moment. Then came the explosions. Reports from the scene described massive secondary detonations, the kind that happen when you hit ammunition stores or fuel tanks. The S-400 battery, with its sophisticated radars and launch vehicles, each worth millions of dollars, transformed into twisted metal and smoking craters. Russia's impenetrable shield had just been penetrated, shredded, and scattered across the Crimean landscape. But Ukraine wasn't finished, yet not even close. Enter Storm Shadow, Britain's gift that kept on giving. What would you do if someone handed you a weapon that could reach out 250 kilometers with pinpoint accuracy? Ukraine's answer was simple. Use it to make Russia's occupation of Crimea absolutely miserable. The Storm Shadow missile isn't just another weapon. It's a masterpiece of engineering that took British and French expertise decades to perfect. Picture a missile that's smarter than most people. It doesn't just fly to a GPS coordinate and hope for the best. Storm Shadow combines GPS navigation with terrain-matching technology, essentially reading the landscape below like a topographic map and comparing it to preloaded data. As it approaches the target, infrared sensors take over, identifying specific buildings or vehicles and guiding the missile's 450-kilogram warhead to impact within meters of the aim point. The question everyone asked was, could aging Soviet-era Ukrainian jets actually use these cutting-edge Western missiles? Imagine the engineering challenge. You've got Su-24 bombers that first flew in 1967, aircraft designed during the Vietnam War era, and you need to integrate missiles developed in the 21st century using completely different electrical systems, computers, and protocols. It would be like trying to connect your smartphone to a rotary telephone. But Ukrainian and British engineers made it work. They essentially created a bridge between two technological eras, allowing Soviet vintage jets to carry weapons that Russia's newest aircraft would envy. The strikes that made Russia rethink everything. When does confidence become arrogance? For Russia, the answer came in the fall of 2023 when Storm Shadow missiles started raining down on targets throughout Crimea. Following the August Neptune strike, Russian forces scrambled to reinforce Cape Tarkhankut. They brought in replacement equipment, repositioned assets, and presumably told themselves it was just bad luck, a one-off incident that wouldn't happen again. Then Ukrainian Su-24S appeared. The beauty of Storm Shadow attacks is their psychological impact. Russian troops on the ground might not see or hear the aircraft launching the missiles. What would it feel like to be a Russian soldier in Crimea, knowing that at any moment, without any warning, a British-made missile could be minutes away from ending your life? Video footage released after the strikes showed scenes straight from an action movie. Massive explosions mushrooming into the Crimean sky. Secondary detonations sending debris hundreds of meters into the air. The kind of destruction that makes military analysts lean forward in their chairs and say, "Holy hell, they actually did it!" But the Cape Tarkhankut strikes were just the opening act. Storm Shadow missiles proceeded to hit the Black Sea Fleet headquarters in Sevastopol, the heart of Russian naval power in the region. They struck ammunition depots, sending months' worth of supplies up in smoke. They demolished command posts, disrupting Russian operations across the entire peninsula. Each strike delivered the same message: Crimea is not safe, your occupation is not secure, we can reach you anywhere. The illusion shattered. What this really meant. What's more valuable, a weapon system or the belief that it's invincible? Russia was about to learn that once that belief evaporates, the consequences cascade in ways you never anticipated. Think about the Russian troops stationed throughout Crimea. For months, they'd been told they were protected by the world's best air defenses. The S-400 was their guardian angel, the technological marvel that would keep Ukrainian missiles at bay. Officers assured enlisted men that NATO weapons couldn't penetrate Russian defenses. Then those defenses exploded. The psychological impact cannot be overstated. If the S-400 could be destroyed, what else was vulnerable? If Cape Tarkhankut, a heavily defended military installation bristling with radar and missiles, could be struck with impunity, was anywhere safe? Russian commanders faced a brutal new reality. Every logistics hub, every command post, every ammunition depot in Crimea was now a potential target. But there's an even bigger story here. Hear what happens when the world's customers watch your premium product fail spectacularly. Russia's arms export business was about to find out. Countries that had spent billions on S-400 systems, or were considering future purchases, suddenly had some uncomfortable questions. If Ukraine could destroy these systems using modified coastal defense missiles and Western cruise missiles, the emperor had no clothes and the whole world could see. Russia's defense industry depends on exports. When your premier air defense system becomes a symbol of vulnerability rather than protection, that's not just a tactical problem. It's a strategic disaster. The question now isn't whether advanced air defense systems can be destroyed. Cape Tarkhankut answered that definitively. The question is, what comes next as militaries worldwide absorb the lessons written in the burning wreckage of Russia's premier air defense system? And somewhere in Ukraine, engineers and pilots are already working on the answer. If this breakdown of how Ukraine just rewrote air defense rules hit hard, smash that like button and subscribe for more real-time war analysis. Drop a comment. What's the next Russian system on the chopping block? Turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what's coming.